Levels, 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 levels.
Levels, 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 levels.
There are levels.
I had them.
I has it.
I has all the levels.
Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 18.
Everyone has things that they're passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can get just one more person
to join us on our hill to die on. Oh, I'm so tired right now.
Oh, yeah.
I've been over at my other apartment cleaning all day. Ugh.
Mm.
It is the worst.
Scrubbing.
Yeah.
When I moved out, we cleaned. And then he came in and said, oh, yeah, this part's dirty, and this part's dirty, and this part's dirty. And I'm like, ugh. And the problem is, he's right. But I had already spent like 2 hours cleaning those things, and it's still dirty. And he's right. But, I'm taking it personally at that point, right?
Mm.
And I realized I'm taking it personally because I've been cleaning so much, and I need to not take it personally. And he's right. And I'm like, fine. And then the end of the way, he just paid to clean it or something like that.
I mean, like, I moved my bathtub today and tried to clean underneath that thing, and...
How do you move your bathtub? It's not built in?
No.
Really?
Yeah. What you do is there's a panel that you can actually lift up, and then you can get underneath it that way. If you don't clean them like once a year or so, they tend to like mold.
Oh, yeah. Tomorrow's last day.
Tomorrow is my last day. I have to have everything done and out by tomorrow.
Ooh.
The tricky part is trash. Because
you're going to have to bring it here. There's not enough days to throw it away. Can you put it in the basement or something?
I'm going to put it out because my old apartment has a gated trash can, basically. And apparently I've been the only one who actually follows the date rules.
Oh, really?
Because everybody's just been sticking stuff out whenever.
Mm-hmm. So you feel if you break it this once, what does it matter, right?
What are they going to do? Chase me down with my trash?
They're gonna kick you out. Oh, wait.
I know that's not the correct thing to do, but you know what? At this point, I'm getting out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have these grody old pots and pans because I inherited like 4 people's different pots and pans, and so I need to throw them away. And to throw away metal objects, you have to put it in the recycling.
Oh, not just non-burnable?
Technically, it goes in the recycling.
I didn't know that.
With the
cans?
With the cans. That's why I'm okay setting it out, because basically I'm just going to be setting it with the rest of the cans that are already out there.
Mm.
But what's interesting is it's the same policy as that with any small electronics, like a vacuum cleaner.
You just put that out with the cans too? That's
what the website says.
Wow. It's kind of nice, actually.
The one thing that I will have to soraigomi is I have a chair, like a
sofa chair.
No, it's not a sofa chair. It's like a plastic chair that has a metal base. It's designed for like a desk, but it is the most uncomfortable desk chair I have ever had. I bought a new one a couple months back, and so that one's just been sitting in the corner of a room. 'Cause I'm classy like that. A large part of what I've been doing is unpacking. So my current apartment, the new place, is mostly set up now. I've actually got everything mostly unpacked. I have to figure out what I'm doing with a few things that I think I'm going to end up getting rid of.
Mm-hmm.
Like my curtains from my old place are too short for this one.
Yeah, the curtain rails, they go top to bottom, right?
Yeah.
You really need really tall curtains.
Yeah, the ones that I have are just like about 6 inches too short. Then I have a bunch of plastic tubs that I had that I bought because I didn't have closet space in my last place. And so those were my storage. And now I have a bunch of plastic tubs that are sitting in the middle of a living room that I don't need anymore. Figuring out who I can who I can bless with those things.
I actually have a game for the What's Ryan Been Playing segment.
Oh my
It's not what you've been playing.
It's not what I've been playing? Are you sure?
Maybe you've been playing it. I don't know. But so Japan has Children's Day, right?
Yeah.
And normally we do something for our kids. We go out, we have fun, we do whatever. And because, again, we're pretty much stuck at home, we figured, well, what should we do? I've been trying to avoid buying this game for a while because I saw it had like a subscription model. So not only do you have to pay for the game up front, but then you have to pay for a subscription. And I was like, ah. But then my wife came to me and said, yeah, but we're not doing anything for Children's Day. So all the money that we would have to go out for dinner or go out somewhere, why don't we just put it toward this game and the subscription and it would still be cheaper? And I was like, oh man, can't argue with that logic.
Mm-hmm.
So we bought Just Dance 2020 on our Switch. And now I have a Ubisoft account.
I didn't realize Just Dance had a subscription-based model.
There are songs that you can play for free, but really, it looks to me, and this is why you basically want the subscription so that you can get the access to the hundreds of songs.
Yeah.
You can play like the 20 songs over and over and over again if you want to, but that will drive everyone nuts. So you pretty much want the subscription to all of the songs. So for a year of subscription and the game itself, it would be cheaper than anything we would have done on a normal year. So yeah, my daughter's been playing that for a while.
Well, I can tell you that I have not been playing Just Dance.
It's actually not too bad.
No, I mean, I don't doubt you because I have played many a dancing game in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Probably starting around your oldest daughter's age
mm-hmm.
and up until I was well into my early 20s, I was a big fan of Dance Dance Revolution.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. That series has kind of gone away, hasn't it?
Yeah, mostly. I still remember what it's like to be able to dance. So much so that there was a revolution about it.
Everyone revolved, huh?
Or revolted.
It's pretty interesting to me. My middle daughter has been getting the highest scores, which is quite interesting. Usually my first daughter has the best eye-hand coordination. Yeah, she does well with Mario Kart.
Mm-hmm.
But my middle daughter has been the one that has been winning in Dance Dance. Sorry, now you got me. Has been winning in Just Dance. So that's quite interesting. For a while, though, we did have to talk to my youngest daughter and say, look, this is not really a competition. We're dancing to have fun.
Mm.
The more points you earn, you get these little ball sticker things. I don't know. You get little in-game prizes. But we're not really going for those. We're going for fun. So it was a little bit of talking there.
My mind went back to why Dance Dance Revolution isn't a thing anymore. And I think it really comes down to the fact that because you have things like Just Dance, where it's more of like, it's tracking more of your body instead of just pushing arrows on the floor. Because the technology has evolved, and Dance Dance Revolution didn't like adjust to those changes, I think that's why they just kind of went, we'll put this game off to the side. And I'm sure they're involved in some of the other ones. Because do you know who the publisher is?
Yeah, Ubisoft.
Okay. Because, yeah, Dance Dance is Konami. So I'm just wondering if they're still... Oh, yeah, no, there's still games coming out. Oh, it's just in arcades right now.
I saw one at round 1.
Yeah.
Here in Japan.
Yeah, so apparently they've just gone, yeah, we're gonna move away from
consoles.
Because I think they just realized that was the better fit for them.
Well, let me tell you, Old Town Road has become a song that I've listened to a lot now. Do you know that song?
I know that song.
It is played a lot in my house now.
Are you okay with that?
That's all right. Not all the songs are great in this thing, and I'm a little disappointed about that, but what are we going to do? Old Town Road is okay, at least. Well, especially because there are some definite missing words. It is funny to see the lyrics at the bottom of the screen. Every once in a while it has a ...
Mm-hmm.
The lyrics that aren't swears aren't great either, but the only thing my daughters understand are pretty much Old Town Road. That's pretty much the only words they understand anyway, so that's not too bad. They do have the version with Billy Ray Cyrus's verse.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun.
I I am determined to figure out when they stopped making consoles.
Console games.
Yeah, because there it is. They stopped making consoles with PlayStation 2, it looks like.
Oh wow, it was a while ago.
So maybe I'm just remembering my youth.
So anyway, what have you been playing?
Well,
have you hooked anything up yet?
I have hooked things up, and in the fragments of free time that I have right now because of all of the moving.
Mm-hmm.
So I completed Final Fantasy VII, like I told you.
Yeah, but not the extra stuff.
I didn't complete the extra stuff yet, so I've been going back through and trying to do the extra stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, where I'm at right now, I have the secret boss to beat, and then a hard mode run. And then that's it. And then I'm done. So, not too much left to do, but, I have not had a whole lot of free time to do it recently. Mostly focusing on getting moved in, and I just feel like I'm trying to keep up with life at this point. And my guess is probably in the next week I'll have wrapped that all up.
Okay.
Which is a bittersweet moment where
you don't want it to end.
You don't want it to end, so that's why I've been taking my time with it. But, I also have a backlog of a ridiculous amount of games, so I should probably, just enjoy my time with it and wait for part 2 of this remake to come out.
When will that be? 3 more years?
If I'm lucky, 3 years. Maybe 2 if we're lucky, but my guess, 2 or 3 years.
With the media that we're doing later, it's basically a tale of a long travel story.
Mm-hmm.
So we figured that we would pick 2 travel stories this week from our past. Could be long haul travel stories. It doesn't have to be, I guess. But with the given that since we both live in Japan and are from America, that pretty much that trip is always a 24-hour trip door to door. I don't know about you, but I live on the East Coast, so it's usually a 24-ish hour trip from leaving my house here in Japan to arriving at my parents' place in America, even though the flight's really only like 12 hours.
My flight is usually about 12 to 14 hours.
And do you have to lay, like, there's a nice direct flight for me to New York.
Oh no, Chicago is a direct flight.
Direct flight, good.
But for me, I'm fortunate enough that my parents live very close to O'Hare.
Mm-hmm.
So usually I can count on, by the time I get in the car, maybe another hour at most.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same with me too. It's about an hour from the airport to my parents' house.
And I only say an hour because Chicago traffic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same thing. And I'm talking Newark because JFK is middle of nowhere. And horrible airport.
Tell me how you really feel.
It's also occasionally $200 cheaper. There's the rub right there. So we often have long hauls on our flights. So yeah, I hope I'm not stealing one of yours there already, but we're semi-experienced travelers at least.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ignore flights because I try to think about flights as little as possible.
Yes, Ryan, I understand. I have heard your feelings on flights.
Yes, I hate flying. I live in a foreign country, but I hate flying. Yes, I know.
A foreign country that's an island.
Yes, which means that my only options are a flight or taking a very long boat.
Mm-hmm. You could get the ferry to Korea. That'd be pretty quick.
Yeah, but I'd still have to take a plane or a train.
Yeah, you'd have to take the train to the other side of the island and then take a boat to Korea. It's not a quick trip.
No.
So why don't you go ahead and pick?
Oh, okay. Well, as I said, I'm going to ignore flying because I try to think about flying as little as possible. So I'm going to pick one from when I was in college. One of the long hauls that I remember as a very eventful trip was one of my friends from college was getting married. This was believe it was my junior year of college. So my friend was getting married. It was the winter break of college. and she decided to get married back where she was from, which happened to be Minneapolis. So I don't know how much you know about Minneapolis in the middle of winter break, but there tends to be snow.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I specifically remember this trip, I mean, and it wasn't too long haul. We came from the area around Kankakee, Illinois, which is around where my college was. We drove up from Kankakee through Chicago into Wisconsin and then over into Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's not too long of a trip. I want to say it's about an 8-hour trip, if I'm remembering right. But again, I haven't made this trip in a long, long time. So we get there, we have the wedding, lovely affair, and then early in the morning, me and the friend who I was riding with, we need to get back because he has work the very next day.
Oof. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So we have 24 hours to basically get home. Unfortunately, that 24 hours happened to be a time where the snow started really coming in.
Uh-huh.
So we woke up early that morning. A friend of ours made us a mixtape CD,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which we proceeded to listen to on our way home. Lots of wonderful songs, including Tom Waits.
Mm-hmm.
But when we got past the border of Minnesota and entered into Wisconsin, we officially hit a blizzard.
Oh.
So the reason why this trip was so memorable was this blizzard. Because it was me and one other friend driving in my, highly off-roading capable Saturn SL2 in the middle of a blizzard in Wisconsin. So we're driving down this road. The snow is so thick that I can basically see about 20 feet in front of me at most. And that was when the sight was good. When it was not good, it was about 5 feet in front of me, which meant I was driving somewhere around 15 miles an hour down the road. A very, very slow slog down this road. Eventually, we did get a couple of spots where we could speed up a bit, and there were a couple of people who were being a little ridiculous on the road, and so in my efforts to avoid the people who were being awful on this very snowy road, we actually began to spin out.
Oh.
So one of my greatest memories was the fact we were driving down this road. It was a 4-lane highway. So, I mean, 2 lanes going north, 2 lanes going south. And we spun out, and then we ended up actually spinning around and doing a full 360.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
I recovered it, only to about 3 seconds later, it lost control again and did a 360 in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
I caught it, and we were going in the right direction again. And then it spun out a third time, and unfortunately only did a 180, at which point I just turned to my friend and said, you know what, I don't think we're going to save it this time, and we ended up in a ditch.
Oh.
I thankfully had AAA,
Mm-hmm.
so I got out of the ditch, we got back on the road, but it was a very slow ride the rest of the way, because my friend was basically telling me that he wanted me to go as slow as humanly possible to make sure that it didn't happen again, because it was a long time waiting for AAA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my long haul stories, because after that 8-hour trip turned into about a 15-hour trip.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very interesting, and we listened to that one mixtape CD about 20 times.
Yeah, actually, I think I have a pretty similar one. Two similar ones, both in their own ways. But let me start with, I drove to college once. This would be coming back from Christmas break, so it would be one of the first weekends in January. And I'm pretty sure I was arriving a day early, because this was back at the time where Apple had their Macworld Expo in January. I don't even remember which city. I'm guessing San Francisco, but it could have been New York or Boston. But anyway, They had their expo where they announced things in January. And because I worked for the broadcasting department of college, I think we called it the media services. Because I worked for the media services department, I was able to, the guy let me repoint the satellite dish to the place where Apple was broadcasting the live stream. So normally back in the very early 2000s, you could go to an Apple store and watch the live stream because they weren't live streaming over the internet. They were live streaming to a satellite dish or to the satellites, and then all the Apple stores would already have their satellite dishes pointed. But we had a movable dish where we would point it wherever we wanted to at whatever times we wanted to point it. And the guy would let me repoint the dish to the specific satellite and specific carrier wave. I didn't point the dish. He pointed it. I just sent him all the stuff, and he already like, oh yeah, you just tell me which satellite and which channel or whatever. He would do it. So I was arriving a day early for that. But of course, I was doing the college thing where I was leaving after dinner because, a free meal at home. Why would you leave before dinner? And my college was 3 hours away. So, I could leave at 8 and get there by 11, which, and 11 is pushing it. But, it's college. 11's when you're starting to think about going to bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was going to work out just fine, right? And I didn't look at the weather. I don't know. I didn't even cross my mind, I guess. But I left at 8. And it takes about an hour to get out of New Jersey and then about 2 hours in Pennsylvania to my college.
Mm-hmm.
And before I got out of New Jersey, the snow was starting to come down. The roads were not slippery yet, but everybody was slowing down probably out of nervousness, right? So I was getting a little bit frustrated because if we just traveled at the pace we were supposed to be traveling, or at least near the pace we were supposed to be traveling, we'd be moving along fast enough to keep the roads warm. But everybody was getting all slowed down. In fact, at one point, we were stopped enough that I just opened my car door and touched the road, and I'm like, yeah, it's starting to stick now. We got to keep moving here. Why are we stopped? So, at least it's starting to get wet anyway. I don't think it was slippery. It was just getting wet at that point. It was getting on the road and melting. And I was thinking, well, we got to keep moving, otherwise this is going to freeze over. But the traffic didn't really improve much into Pennsylvania. In fact, at one point, we would be stopped for quite some time. Whenever it would get moving again, there was no clear definition why it was stopped. Like, there was nobody on the side of the road, nobody in ditches or whatever. Like, it was just stopped. But one of the times, and it was getting cold, and I didn't have as much gas as I was hoping. I probably left on like half a tank, which would have been, of course, normally fine. But I was a little bit concerned leaving the car on while we're stopped during these times because I would run out of gas. So I decided at one point that, look, I'm going to turn the car off. And now, we had slowed down a lot. So like it was already like a few hours in. And it was probably over, past midnight, like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And we're stopped on the road. And I'm thinking, I am so tired now. I am going to turn the car off and I'm going to fall asleep.
Oh, no.
And I'm just going to wait here in the middle of the road because, what's going to happen? Because there's a semi behind me. And you know what? He's got plenty of gas in his huge gas tanks that when it's time to move again, he will let me know. And sure enough, he let me know. He honked nicely. And I woke up. I was like, oh, okay, it's time to go. Turned the car on and started moving again. But yeah, every once in a while I did turn the car. I mean, when we were stopped, I'd turn the car off. I'd get a bit cold. Turn the car on for 10 or so minutes again, get everything warmed up, and then turn the car off again. And then I did that for a little while. But I think I probably finally got into college again at like 5 a.m.
Oh,
something like that. So yeah, it took what's normally a 3-hour trip took like, almost 12, 9 hours. What is it? It's like, craziness. Yeah, it was really bad just because it just took forever. But I got there in time. I slept from 5 to 10 and went to college at 10 and started watching the broadcast. The broadcast would have happened later than 10 because it would have started 10 on the West Coast. So it would have been like, 1 or 2 on our coast.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, anyway. So I got to do that.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun. That would have been back 2000. I wonder what they announced at the Macworld Expo January 2003. Oh, they introduced the Safari web browser, the Airport Extreme 17 and 12-inch PowerBooks. I probably used to have the videotape of that recorded, but I think I've thrown all my tapes away now.
The show also saw the launch of the world's first interactive video CD-ROM, Night Watch.
Is it really the first interactive? I wonder that. Like, wasn't Myst an interactive video CD-ROM? Maybe.
It looks like it's something that was made by Sierra. So, no. Oh, wait, no. Never mind, that's a tent. I typed in Night Watch, and the first thing that comes up is Sierra. And I'm like, oh, it must be from Sierra. Nope, that's a tent. Anyway.
Yeah, anyway, sorry. Let's get to your second one.
My second one. So, I picked this one simply because it's a little bit more reminiscent of the story that we read.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because when I was younger, I think I was early in college. Another college one.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of friends and I got together and we decided that we were going to do a road trip. And not terribly far. We were just going to go up into the northern part of Wisconsin. We were just going to camp. We were going to go out camping. So it was in the middle of summer. This was just a bunch of guys. I want to say about 3 of them out of the 7 guys that went were married. And so this was just a time for all the guys to basically get away from family and get away from everything and just go out camping, go fishing, all that sort of stuff. So the reason why I say it is more reminiscent of the story is basically that trip I really remember because it was basically a bunch of guys just getting together and having fun together, camping out in the middle of nowhere. We had a big fire around our tent. A bunch of the guys brought out some random instruments that they had in their houses. So one guy brought out his accordion. One guy brought out some bongos. And so we're talking pretty much every night sitting around the fire. Of course, at least one guitar was there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bunch of guys sitting around a fire, cooking what we could over top the fire, whatever we caught that day or whatever we got from the grocery store because there was a grocery store just down the road. And so we would just have fun, just hanging out, singing around a fire, going fishing, going hiking into the little area around us. It was just one of those great trips, spending time with good people and just enjoying each other's company.
Mm.
It was a lovely little trip. I still look back on it fondly simply because it was good people hanging out together and enjoying each other's company. Just a positive little road trip there.
Mm-hmm.
From Chicago, it was about, I want to say maybe 8 hours north.
Mm-hmm.
So just into a little bit less populated area of Wisconsin. Or did we actually cross the border into Minnesota? I wasn't driving at the time, so I don't remember. I slept. You know, because I'm that nice of a person where we have somebody who has a car, and so I'm just going to pass out in the seat next to them. So, yeah, that's all I got.
Well, then I guess I might have the longest haul then. Well, at least longest haul now that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Again, another college one. So in college, the coach of cross country is able to borrow the school's vehicles for school-related trips. And college kids can get a school license, which is just passing a driving test with an instructor, and then you get a little piece of paper that says you're able to drive a school vehicle. I don't think you can rent them personally. I think school departments have to rent them.
Mm.
So whenever I drove one, I drove the 15-passenger vans and the smaller vehicles, and whenever I drove it, I either drove it for cross country or for an outreach.
Mm.
And outreaches might have special dispensation.
Mm.
Yeah, I would drive school vehicles frequently, often to cross-country and track meets as a driver. So in my senior year, and in fact, I'm also wondering if the snow story was my senior year too, so these are probably fairly close proximity. But my senior year in college, one of the girls made it to nationals, Division III nationals. So we wanted to have a cheering squad go cheer her on. The problem was that nationals was in St. Olaf, Minnesota. So this is where it actually comes fairly similar to your trips. And our college was in Pennsylvania. So the trip from Pennsylvania to St. Olaf is a good 19, 20 hours. So I think what we did was, I remember talking to the coach and asking him, can we do this? Can he get the hotel rooms for us? Can he get the car? We'll just do the driving and get there.
Mm.
And so I think cross country paid for a lot of it, because I don't think we paid for the hotel rooms. I think the school paid for the hotel rooms. The cross-country budget paid for the car. We just had to pay for our own food and stuff. So it wasn't a bad deal, really.
Mm-hmm.
But we borrowed one of the school's Astro vans, and I'm pretty sure we packed it full with 8 people. And we got all of the people in the van to get their school driver license, too, so that everybody could have a chance to drive. Although after I had done that, the coach said, "Wait a minute, you did what?" He said, "No, I told them that everybody was an experienced school driver." So I think about 3 or 4 of us had school licenses already and had been driving school vehicles for a while, but the other 3 or the other 4 to 5 hadn't yet gotten their school license. Wait a minute, now you've made me lie. I'm like, well, okay, we'll make sure they have less time driving. But I'm pretty sure we left on Thursday night, drove all through the night, through Friday. We had it all worked out. We had rotations worked out. Of course, we didn't have Google Maps. So yes, I had to work out the route all ahead of time. We worked out the rotations ahead of time. I went to the car mechanic at the college and I said, "What should I be looking for?" And he gave me a few things to check during the trip. So that was nice. He was very impressed I did that. He was like, "Ooh, very nice. I'm glad you came to do this." I'm glad I did that. He showed me what I should be checking. I went to Radio Shack and bought a cigarette lighter to DC converter so that we could plug in a laptop and watch DVDs. Remember these days? I don't even remember whose laptop it was. It wasn't mine. I don't even remember whose it was.
I always remember whenever I went on a road trip with my family and specifically my aunt, she had a tiny, tiny plug into the lighter adapter, not a DVD player. This was a CRT TV with a VHS TV player attached to it. It was a tiny little thing, but can you just imagine 4 12 to 14-year-olds gathered around this tiny CRT TV that was sitting between the 2 front seats that we were all leaning towards so we could watch a VHS tape? That's my childhood right there.
Yeah, but your VHS tapes weren't skipping in the car.
You're right. They were not skipping.
Yeah, actually, I remember buying that DC converter. And my electrical engineering roommate, he's like, "What'd you get? You got that?" So he brought it immediately to the shop and plugged in an oscilloscope to see how much of a sine wave it created. He's like, "Wait a minute, I want to test this out." So yeah, we brought it in, and yeah, it was really a boxy sine wave. It was not really wavy at all. It was pretty much on, off, on, off. There's no sine wave to it at all. So anyway, it was pretty funny. He's like, "No, I got to try this out. We got to figure this out." I'm like, okay, sure. Let's go plug it in. So actually, I was just looking on Google Maps now because you can just do it and it just works. Google's saying it would take 19 hours. We pretty much went the bottom route through Pennsylvania, the bottom route through Ohio, at Indianapolis, turned north through Chicago, and then went through Wisconsin, through Minneapolis to St. Olaf, which is pretty much on almost the other side of Minnesota. So yeah, I'm pretty sure in some of your trips you were describing, I'm pretty sure we took some similar roads.
Oh, yeah. Like, the first one I was talking about was pretty much like us taking 94 almost straight down until it hit 90 and then going south from there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we stopped at the Mall of America when we went through Minneapolis.
Because you got to do that.
You got to do it, right? I went to the Apple Store in the Mall of America back then. I have a picture there. And then we continued on. And so pretty much we arrived at night. We slept in the hotel Friday night, went to the race Saturday morning, which was the first time I'd ever seen a race with a chip in it. She had a chip tied to her shoe. She had to return it afterward. Then we drove to Chicago Saturday afternoon, and we stayed with one of my family friends who lives in Chicago. And we went to their church that morning, and then finished the drive back that Sunday afternoon. So we did stay over at a family friend in Chicago's on the way back, which was quite nice. They have a nice big house, and we all piled into their living room pretty much on the floor with sleeping bags, which worked great. So that was quite fun.
Do you know what neighborhood around Chicago it was?
Yeah, south of Chicago. One of the nice things was they live walking distance to their church, so we were able to walk to their church and then walk back to their house and then pile in and continue on. So yep, it was quite nice. Then we got back for class on Monday, so that worked out well too. So we only missed one day of school. It was a great trip. Actually, I was trying to think of who the people were that went with us, and I counted 9, and that can't be because I'm pretty sure that car only fit 8. So I have to look back through the pictures to see who I'm counting that didn't actually go.
Yeah, I was trying to decide which story I should tell because there was a couple of stories where I was working at a camp and they had me drive, and that was probably not the best decision that they made.
Yeah, driving school vehicles, I enjoyed it, but I think it was also not always the best decision. There were some times coming back from track meets where I was dead tired, and I'm pretty sure it was very dangerous for me driving a 15-passenger van.
Yeah, I mean, because whenever I worked at camps, they always had me drive the 15-passenger van full of, like, other staff members. And many times I was following people, and the people who I was following would do things like not give signals and suddenly pull off the highway. And so I had to, because this was before we had cell phones.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to do things like do a quick look over my shoulder, make sure the lanes were free, and then jump across 3 lanes of traffic to pull off. Things that every single staff member would scream and go, "Ryan, what are you doing?" And my only response was, You're still alive?
Yep. Yeah, I remember one time we were going up to New York State with my friends for my friend's wedding. And we didn't have walkie-talkies. We wanted to get walkie-talkies and we couldn't. We were a multi-car trip. And somebody got behind. And we pulled off into a parking area because we knew he was behind us. We don't know how far behind us he was, but we knew he was behind us. So we pulled off in the parking area and we sat standing outside the cars, watching the road very carefully until we saw him pass. And when he saw him pass, we got quickly back in the cars and got back on the highway to catch up to him.
Oh, wait, no. That story that I just told, I did have a cell phone. I just didn't have the numbers of all the people I was following.
Yeah, we didn't have cell phones. I didn't have cell phones.
Yeah, I had a cell phone, but I didn't have any of the numbers of the people I was following. Oh, man.
It was a different time back then, wasn't it? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine traveling. Even when we were in Korea recently, and my wife was going to go somewhere else from us. One of the reasons why I went to Korea, she had her task to do. And our phones didn't work for calling unless you're in Wi-Fi. So we're like, how are we going to get in contact? And we're like, we're going to do it like we did in the past. We're going to agree to meet here at a specific time. But man, it's just nerve-wracking when you realize you can't call them.
Yeah.
If things change. So, yeah. And it's very funny.
It is weird.
It's very weird. When it was fine back then, right? It was fine. You would just agree to meet. And I'm sure people would worry back then too, but still.
Yeah. I can't even imagine it right now. And I already know that people would worry right now with me, even though I have a cell phone. But then again, I also think about when I was a kid. I'm sure that my parents probably were like inches away from deciding whether or not they should get a leash for me. Because I was that kind of kid. Those were interesting days. I'm thirsty.
Are you thirsty, Ryan?
I am definitely thirsty. What do we have today?
Today we have a weird drink. In Japan, there is such a thing as melon soda, which generally speaking, it's pretty good. It's very sweet.
It's very sweet. It's usually green.
It's usually bright neon green and very sweet.
Yep.
So sometimes they sell it in a cream flavor, which is interesting, right?
Oh, yeah. The cream melon soda is really good because it basically tastes like you have that super sweet melon soda and somebody just took ice cream and melted it in it.
So yeah, cream melon soda is pretty good. Most of the soda machine, most of the restaurant vending machines anyway, have just the regular melon soda. That being said, this is something totally different. This is a melon soda, but it is gold flavored, but still has a green honeydew melon pictured on it. So it's interesting that it's...
Yeah.
What does U-body mean? Do you know what U-body means?
No idea.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, it's called Hokkaido U-body melon soda. Fortunately, I don't know what U-body means.
Oh, U-body is a place in Hokkaido.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Apparently.
So this has 1% fruit juice. Actually, I was thinking, this bottle looks normal sized. Maybe it's 500 milliliters.
Nope.
No, it's 420. 420. Yep.
So it's less than usual.
a lot less than the 500 milliliter size. So anyway, it looks interesting. It's not a big name brand, I don't think, right?
Not that I can see. Oh, no, it's Sapporo.
Sapporo, yeah. So I mean, it's not one of the biggest brands, but it's a big brand. But it's not like what we normally buy, which is like a flavored CC Lemon or a flavored Coke or a flavored Pepsi.
Mm-hmm.
This is something completely different. But it looked interesting.
Yeah, it looks interesting. I'm using my Google Translate to read small text, and yeah, all it's doing is talking about the scent of the melon.
Yeah.
That the 1% juice is definitely going to give me.
The scent of the melon, right, came from something else, really.
Mm-hmm. This is me totally believing that. What can I say? I'm always 100% positive and optimistic.
Alrighty, let's see what this tastes like.
All right. Well,
oh, it has the scent of a melon.
It does actually smell like melons.
It does. It doesn't smell like melon soda. It smells like cantaloupe. It has a very distinct cantaloupe smell. Or melon, I guess, in general. But yeah, I think of cantaloupe when I smell this smell.
Yeah, it smells, I would say, cantaloupe.
Wow.
Yeah.
It tastes like melon. Like real melon.
Yeah, it tastes like somebody just pureed a melon and added some soda water.
Yep.
Which is very surprising considering it's 1% juice.
They found the right combination of sugars, I guess, huh?
The smell is very strong.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the taste is almost identical, right?
Mm-hmm. Although, taste is tied to smell, so maybe it's just...
us projecting?
Projecting, yeah.
Mm-mm. Well, what do you think? It's okay, I think.
It's okay. It's not one that I would go out and buy.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know, Yubari is a city famous for the Yubari melon.
Oh, okay.
And the Yubari International Fantastic Film Festival. That's apparently all it's known for.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Not gonna buy this again, probably.
No. If I want melon, I would just eat melon. I mean, not bad. I'm not, throwing this out, but yeah.
I agree. I'll finish it.
I mean, it's no melon cream soda.
Interesting, right? We probably would like the fake melon better. Although I guess this is fake melon too, really, I guess.
Yeah, I will say that. I do like the overly sweet fake melon soda better.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not melon flavored.
It's melon soda flavored.
It's melon soda flavored.
Yep, it is.
I know what to expect when I hear melon soda.
Mm-hmm.
I expect overly sugary, bright neon green melon flavored.
I'm a little disappointed. I think I had higher hopes for this drink than have come out.
All right, so what you're saying is I need to find another high winner like
Pepsi Orange.
Like Pepsi Orange.
Which was surprisingly good, right?
It was surprisingly good because we had very low expectations on that one.
Yeah. I think this one is surprisingly bad.
Yeah.
I had higher expectations for this, and they've been dashed.
Maybe this just means that we should have no expectations.
Maybe.
Lower expectations.
This week we have a book that I was looking to see where I've heard of this, and I'm pretty sure I've heard of it from The Incomparable, but I can't find the episode that talked about it. According to The Incomparable's website, I'm sure I heard it on the main feed, and they don't have any main feed shows listed for this book, which sounds weird to me, because I'm sure this would have come up in one of the Hugo or Nebula nominee podcasts. I don't actually see if this was nominated for a Hugo or Nebula. Maybe this book wasn't. Maybe the second book was. Maybe that's what it is. Then I just read the first one because they said the first one was good too. Yes. Okay. All right, so here it is. I definitely found it now. So the second book was nominated for something, Hugo or...
What's the second one called?
A Closed and Common Orbit.
Ah, there it is.
Yeah, the book we're reading this week is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. The second book is A Closed and Common Orbit, which was nominated for a Hugo or Nebula of that year. And this is an Incomparable 359. So I heard about it there. They said, oh, the first book was good too. You should read the first book and then read the second book. So I said, oh, okay, I'll do that. Yes, Both books are excellent. At least I think so. We'll get to Ryan's in a second, I guess. So I recommended to Ryan that he read this book too. Closed in Comet Orbit is written by Becky Chambers. This is the first book in a 3-book series. I've only read the first 2 so far. I haven't read the third one yet. I have it, I just haven't gotten a chance to read it yet. This was the first time where I'd listened to the books in audiobook format.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got the third book in EPUB, and I read the first chapter because I was excited to read it. And then it was summertime, and I forgot or something, and I didn't finish the book. But it was funny to read the first chapter of the third book in ebook format and see all the words spelled for the first time. I'm like, oh, that's how that's spelled. Because this book has lots of weird alien names and interesting words in general.
Mm-hmm.
So it was funny to see them all spelled out for the first time. I guess maybe one word, it does have a bunch of swearing and stuff in it. But
you do realize that does not bother me at all, right?
yeah, but I mean, for the rest of our audience.
Oh, for the rest of our audience, for those of you who have an issue with language.
Yeah, a bunch of language and a bunch of other interesting topics that might not be good for kids. I did have to be careful where I listened to this book.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you have kids you have to be aware of.
Mm-hmm. I can't just always listen to this on speaker.
Before we get too much further into the book,
mm-hmm.
I should probably say that since we are going to be talking about The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, if you haven't read it, now's the time that you would want to pause the podcast, go ahead and read it, and come back when you've finished. However, if you have read it before and you just can't remember it, I will provide you, of course, with the summary as always. Which, let's see if I can actually summarize this book.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, oh man, I gave you another hard one to summarize.
Yes, you did. So let's see how this summary goes, because I wrote it all out. Let's see how well it goes. So, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is a book that centers around a tunneling ship called the Wayfarer. It is a craft that is home to a variety of sapient beings whose purpose is to create wormholes in space. Shortly after they receive a new member, Rosemary, they are offered a rather lucrative job to connect Hedra Ka to the rest of the galactic commons. This trip will take a year, so most of this story centers around the crew, their journey, and their interactions as they travel to Hedra Ka. The story itself at its core is extremely episodic, with the journey to Hedra Ka as the overarching story that tends to link everything together. As it is episodic, I feel like the characters are very central to this entire story, so I feel it's best to describe the crew before continuing. So Ashby is a human, and he is the captain of the Wayfarer. He is a pacifist at heart who cares deeply for his crew. He's also in a secret relationship with Pei, an Alien who makes several appearances throughout the story. Syssix is the ship's Andrisk pilot. Andrisks are a race of beings who have some biological similarities to reptiles, but are known for very much friendliness and being very open and very big on physical contact. Rosemary is the newest member of the crew. She is a human, and she is the ship's clerk. She also specializes in paperwork and interspecies communication. She joins the ship as she is also trying to distance herself from her family, as her father has just been caught creating and selling weapons to both sides of a civil war. Kizzy is a human tech who is known for her skill. She specializes in the mechanical side of things. Think hardware. She's lively and has somewhat of an eccentric personality. Jenks, on the other hand, is the other human tech. He specializes in computers. Out of the two, he tends more towards the software side of things. He is also in love with the ship's AI, who is named Lovey. Corbin is the ship's algist. He is also a human, and the best way to describe him is crotchety. Dr. Chef is a Grum, a sapient race who has 6 legs, which are also his hands, balloon-like cheeks, and whiskers. Rosemary describes him as a mix of a caterpillar, an otter, and a gecko. He is the ship's doctor and cook, and tends to be very much a father figure to a lot of members of the crew, but also just a genuine caring person who watches out for all the other members. Ohan is the ship's navigator, and they are a cyanate pair. Cyanates are a race who live in a symbiotic relationship with a microbe that allows them to see subspace and help the ship navigate as it creates the wormhole. Unfortunately, the symbiotic relationship also shortens the lifespan of the host, and at the beginning of the story, Ohan is actually starting his decline into the end of their life. Lovey, the ship's AI, is a evolving, self-thinking, sapient AI, and during the story has also shown that she has feelings for the human tech named Jenks. They spend a lot of time together, and they discuss and decide to get a body kit so that she can live and be a companion for him. Those are all the main members of the crew. So, as I stated earlier, the story is predominantly about this journey to the small angry planet in the title, and the Wayfarer's goal to connect it to the rest of the galactic common space. A lot happens during this trip. To try to keep it reasonably short, in no particular order, they're raided by another species. Jenks ends up deciding and buying a body kit for Lovey, which is against the law. They meet up with Pei, whose ship has been laced with mines, and Kizzy ends up having to disarm them all. They meet up with a couple of modders who sell them some shields to better protect their ship after it had been raided. They visit Sissix's homeworld, and Sissix and Rosemary end up starting a relationship together. They also discover that Corbin is a clone, and he comes to grips with that and his relationship with his own estranged father. And they find a planet which, according to Ohan, is filled with heretics who end up curing themselves of the symbiotic relationship or killing the microbe based on how you define which is the true being there. All these things happen, and like I said, I'm not doing it justice by running through all of these so quickly, but so much happens in this story, and it grows the relationships of the crew. They help the crew grow closer together. But the peak of the story, however, is when they finally do reach the planet in question and begin the tunnel. When they begin the tunnel, one of the Ka clan disagrees with connecting with the rest of the commons, and they fire upon the Wayfarer. The Wayfarer ends up opening the tunnel, and they do get through the tunnel. And they succeed in doing so, and they succeed in making it back to the commons space. But in doing so, Lovey, the AI, is killed. Her files corrupted. Among other things that happen through this whole thing, Ohan begins fading and begins dying, and Corbin, in his determination not to lose another crewmate, injects Ohan with the cure that the heretics gave to the crew, which kills the microbe but saves Ohan, the host's, life. As the story wraps up, the story seems to end as the members find some time of relaxation, wind down, and also as the treaty that was the purpose for this entire wormhole falls apart because of them being fired upon. As they wind down, they also prepare to continue these journeys and leave off on another mission.
So, Ryan.
Yeah, I think that's about as much as I can say.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that happens in this story.
There's a lot. It's a long book.
I wouldn't say it's a long book. I would just say it's a book where it feels like so much happens that in skirting over all the things that happen the way I did, it feels like I'm not nearly doing justice to it.
Exactly. I do like the ramblingness of this story. Right. It introduces everyone nice and slowly. In fact, I kind of liked the fake out. I thought that almost this was going to be a book following Rosemary. In the first few chapters, right, we were picking up with Rosemary. We were finding out all about her. We're going to follow her in this journey. But no, it's not, she's just one aspect. Yeah. She ends up being just like one little thing that we're following here in a midst of everything that we're following.
Yeah, and I think it is also a very nice timing that they added her to the crew because, if nothing else, it allows the reader to follow with Rosemary for the beginning chapters to kind of get an idea of what the crew is like.
Yeah, it allows the exposition to come out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do think that each episode, I think it's interesting that you're calling them episodes. I think that works pretty well. Mm-hmm. Each episode brings its almost little theme with it. Like they all got their own little themes, right? Dealing with terrorism and the feelings post-terrorism and the fear.
Yeah.
That was very well done, I thought.
The fact that when they're on the planet with the modders getting shields, they end up all being trapped in these bubbles. But in addition to that, it also comes out that it's that time that Rosemary's father has been officially accused and convicted of the crime, and she ends up having to deal with that while she can't get away from anybody else.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it causes her to end up admitting those things that she tried to keep hidden.
One of the big themes in the book in general is acceptance, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of acceptance. Acceptance even when it's inconvenient, which in some ways is what they were talking about at the end of the book with the Hedrika.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're going to accept them because that is what we're told to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what we believe in some ways too. Even though we're uncomfortable with the fact that they're a warring race, but we're going to accept them. And then, of course, things go bad. And even at the end of the book, even the announcement from the council,
Mm-hmm.
the Commons Council was like, okay, we're not going to accept them into the Galactic Commons anymore, but we're going to keep the door open for when they do become a little less warring.
Mm.
So there's still acceptance going on, even though they've decided that they're not right for the Commons. So here's an early question. The book does seem to imply that Ashby's comments to the council at the end did change their minds, right? Or at least changed one or two minds, right?
Yeah. And maybe those minds that changed were enough.
Mm-hmm. To throw it the other way.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think it was nice that Rosemary called him out too. Like, you got to go speak. In fact, I think the only thing that was rude was when she called him an accident and she made a slur on his... there's basically two classes of humans, right? There's the class
Mm-hmm.
of humans that were stuck in ships, and there's the class of humans that were colonized Mars, because Earth is...
Yeah.
Do we ever understand what happened to Earth?
It sounds like Earth, we basically screwed Earth up beyond saving.
Yeah.
Because they talk about, like, there are a couple of spots that the Galactic Commons have helped bring it back to life kind of thing, but we've screwed it up.
So yeah, either you're a Martian or you're an Exodus being the ones that left on the ship.
Mm.
And she gives him a nice slur at the end there of being an Exodus.
Yeah.
Of her talk, that was the harshest thing. Everything else was nice and truthful.
Yeah. When you talk about acceptance, there's a lot of different ways you can go with that too. Because, I mean, you think of, like, Ohan, and throughout the story, he has accepted the fact that his life is coming to an end. He has accepted that this is his lot in life. And it's the other people who can't accept that.
Mm-hmm.
But then once he has been cured of this microbe, the thing that he can't accept is he wants to stay with the crew.
Right, is what he clings to, right? The things that he couldn't accept before are what he clings to now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I guess I think you're right. I think acceptance goes very deep in this book because there's also the acceptance of the modders, right?
Yeah.
And that they do talk about some of it is shunned by culture, even, but not all of it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they meet those two modders for the shields, and a lot of what they're doing is accepted. Now, a lot of what they're doing is also logically explained so that it's easy to accept why they modded what they modded. And they also show wisdom in the management of their sister.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some gimmies in ways that you can respect them. Oh, okay, yes, you can see how they're respecting.
On another side of things, though, I also see it very much as a story that talks a lot about a chosen family is the best way to put it.
Yes, that's actually, you're right. I didn't write that theme down, but that is a good one. I mean, that's basically what Sissex's whole thing is, right?
Well, it's what Sissex's whole thing is, but also, even though they don't admit it, the rest of the crew basically are the same way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Even though they don't have a name for it, this is the chosen family they've decided to go with. This is the acceptance of the crew accepting each other.
And I think that's what Corbin wakes up to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Through the talk with his father. His father's like, oh, you actually got people who stand you.
Yeah.
And saying, like, you should be grasping onto that.
Yeah, people who are at least willing to not let you rot in jail.
Right. That is an interesting thing. Actually, going back to Ohan.
Yeah.
Do you agree with what Corbin did?
That's a tricky one because it is...
Because it worked out well in the end again, too, right? It's hard because we know the ending.
We know the ending, but on the other side of things, it is also... Ohan said and had made the choice for himself this is the way I want to live, and this is the way I want to die.
But did he make the choice himself?
Yeah, or was it the microbe talking for him?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question. And I think without knowing the exact way that the microbe worked, we can't necessarily say yes or no on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting. I really liked that conundrum. I mean, I don't have an answer. I don't know what is right and wrong, but it's definitely a conundrum.
Because I will say that the closest thing I could think of would be, for example, there's a man who is dying of hunger. Let's say they were following strict Jewish dietary laws, and the only thing you had to offer them was pork.
Yep.
And if you did not give that to them, they were going to die of starvation.
Right. Mm-hmm.
My normal feeling would be, no, you should feed them. But if they are refusing because of their beliefs and their faith, who are you to deny them that?
Mm-hmm.
That's the hard thing. So yeah, when it comes to Corbin and what he did, I don't know, because that is an ethical dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is forcing your own morality and forcing your own decisions upon them.
What do you think of the general world building? I think, when we were talking, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago now with our colleagues at school about what books we like, I think I realized I liked world building when I read this book. I was like, oh my, yeah, this built a world, right? Lots of details about the specifics of this world were written in and planned ahead. Maybe this book did it well, right? And I think it is a very rambling book, but I think that this book does it well. I'm not sure every book that is written rambling like this does it well, but this one seems to me to do it really well.
See, for me, I don't know if I would necessarily say rambling, because it feels more like a travelogue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it feels like to me. This is somebody accounting for the journey. The destination and what happens aren't as important as the journey. And so that's what it feels like to me. So, to go back to your question, sorry. I felt like because it was written as a travelogue, it presents that world very well. I think that it definitely shows its world and in a very natural way. Mm-hmm. Especially because a lot of times when we're exposed to something new, we see it through the eyes of somebody who hasn't experienced that before. Mm-hmm. In that aspect, like Rosemary tends to be our eyes whenever we're experiencing a new world.
Right, yeah. She's the one that wants to, right? She's going to Sissix's family. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's the one on the Modders planet trying, moving things along there.
Yeah, she tends to be the one who, when we are checking out new things, when we are seeing something for the first time.
Yeah, even the final scene, I mean, right, she's getting her chance to be in space for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Whereas the others in this story tend to be, oh yeah, of course, that's how life is. Mm-hmm. So I think having that dichotomy where you have the people who this is a new life for them, and then you have those who are very experienced in this life, having those two things side by side presents the world in a very living and breathing way. Mm-hmm. It was interesting seeing how, based on the different types of species that were presented, mm-hmm. their culture, their language, all these different things grew up in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, the differences of the aliens was pretty neat. Mm-hmm. And it was well handled, I thought. And they're significantly different, too, which is kind of nice. Mm-hmm. And again, maybe what's also interesting is they're not written to be like one aspect, right? They're not written like Ferengi that are always greedy, and they're not written like Klingons that are always angry and aggressive. They definitely have tendencies, like this race is more precise. This mm-hmm. race is, cold-blooded. This race, they definitely have tendencies, but they're also shown deeper than that too. And to be fair, Klingons and Ferengi are also, but...
Mm-hmm. But always remember the first rule of acquisition.
What's the first rule?
Once you have their money, you never give it back.
Peace is good for business and war is good for business.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. I do like that even in this book, mm-hmm. with genericness of species, that they do show that there are differences that it's not glossed over, like Andrisk. They definitely have a type. They definitely have a stereotype, but they're shown to be different too. There are Andrisks like this, and there are Andrisks like this. In fact, the first Andrisk you meet outside of Syssix is a different Andrisk.
Yeah.
It's not one that fits with the flow. So it's interesting.
One thing that I was thinking of is I would not have been surprised if the way that everything is so episodic and so based around the characters, I would have felt like it would have fit very nicely if the book had ended with them all sitting around a poker table.
Yeah.
To that level, I mean, one of the last scenes that you see with Kizzy and Jenks is Kizzy saying, "So you want to go play, what was it? It was like Battle Wizards or something like that." That's the reason why, for me, this story flows so nicely, is because you know that when the story ends, the journey is still going on, even after you've stopped seeing into it through the reading.
Yeah, actually, I do feel like this story kind of feels like a warm blanket in some ways. In fact, so much so that when I started listening to it again for the show, I have strong memories of listening to this book while shopping at my grocery store. So when I go to the grocery store to pick up a few things for dinner or whatever, I have strong memories of listening to this book at the store. And early on this listen, I went to the grocery store and listened to it again, and all of it came flooding back to me like, oh yes, I remember all of this now. Before I listened, I was like, oh yeah, I remember there was a few good parts. I remember this part. I remember this part. I remember this part. But then when I started listening to the book again, and when Rosemary was getting introduced to all the people, I was like, oh yes, I remember all these people. They all have great stories. They all, and actually, this is one of the points I wanted to bring up. Everybody has a character arc.
Yes.
Everybody does. Even Corbin, even Syssix, Rosemary, like everybody has a character arc. At least everybody on the ship, I guess. Maybe Pepper and the modders don't, but
the only ones whose character arc is maybe not very clear, or maybe not as much, would be Dr. Chef. They're consistent.
Yes, they're consistent.
They're consistent. They're like the stable rock of the ship.
I guess you hear of his previous arc, right?
Yeah, you hear of his previous arc. Yeah, I would say that. Ohan, maybe, because his arc isn't really him.
Yeah.
And Lovey.
I have a question for you about Lovey.
Okay.
In the first reading of this book, I felt the definite pain of her death. In this reading, I was realizing a little bit more that I thought that Lovey didn't get as much introduction in the book as other characters did. Maybe Jenks didn't get terribly much introduction either. He's gotten a brushed over of his history and it wasn't involved in many of the episodes, right? Lovey didn't either. In some ways, I felt that we were experiencing her death through the eyes of the others instead of feeling her death firsthand, right? We felt her death because we were invested in the other characters and the other characters were sad. Yes, we know Lovey, but I felt like we knew the other characters better, and because the other characters are better, it hits that way more. I don't know. What do you think?
I would say, first of all, I think that Jenks is introduced. It's just the fact that he is very invested into Lovey. I would also say that his arc is also tied to Lovey herself. And so I think you are right in a manner, because I would say that the main pain that comes with Lovey's death is not necessarily the others, but seeing how it is affecting him.
Right.
More than anyone else, yes, the other characters are sad, but seeing how it breaks Jenks is why it is sad, I think. I think more than anything else, seeing how it breaks Jenks is where it is. You're right, she is not given very much. But then again, I think that's because everything about her revolves around Jenks. I mean, she still watches out for the ship. She still does all this. But, like, her character was so intrinsically tied to Jenks. Almost codependent. That's the type of relationship they had. One that was codependent. And that's why I think she didn't get as much character growth as she could have outside of that, because everything she had was tied to Jenks as their relationship. So maybe the little bit of growth, maybe of a tiny arc, was with the new Loveless.
Yeah.
And their decision to not hurt him more and basically choose to be in the body kit so that the new AI can take the place.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I guess I can tell you the second book focuses on Pepper and Lovelace. The story moves there. The second book is not more about the ship, which in some ways disappointed me at first. But where they go with Pepper and Lovelace is great. Just wonderful. Basically pick up right where we left off.
Do you see the other characters at all?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, that just helps me temper my expectations.
The second book is very good. I mean, I thought this book was great, right? I thought this book was excellent.
I liked it. I thought it was great.
It was amazing to me that the second book was better. I was like, because again, I think that's what they said in The Incomparable, that the second book is great. The first book is good too. Second book is excellent. And after reading the first book, I was like, how can the second book be better? But the second book was better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think one of the interesting things is, even at Lovey's death, is AI a life?
Yeah.
Because of the acceptance of all the other cultures, it's amazing how, I mean, in general, there's little acceptance for the life of AIs. That only Jenks is the one standing, waiting till the AI finishes his speech, right? That the captain finally realizes he should be asking for the AI's name as he's dealing with AIs.
But you notice that, like, all the characters, especially after Lovey's death, all the characters start to adjust the way that they treat AI.
And I like that even when the captain is talking in the GC council, like he says that he lost somebody, and they're like, "Oh, who are you talking about?" Because first at one point, one of the members of the GC council says, "Oh, great, nobody died," and he says, "Well, I lost my AI." And the guy, "Well, that's at least nobody got hurt," or something. He says something like that, right? And then at the end, he when he's upset, he says, "Oh, I lost one of my crew." And they're like, "Well, just for clarification, you mean the AI, right?" So then they're realizing that he is counting the AI as a life. It shows that to them a little bit too. Yeah, that was good. I liked that.
Yeah. It's very interesting because it sets up a very complicated galaxy. And we only get these glimpses into what the rest of the galaxy is like with their interactions with these different races, with these different people. You only get these glimpses.
Yeah, and how the politics works. Like even the fact that they're in that bug-like space. I forget the place where Corbin gets arrested. I forget those bugs.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're in that space where you can get killed for being a clone. And all the laws that say, you have to respect other cultures about this. So then he gets stuck. Although the politics of that is just, wow. Like, okay, we're going to touch on the politics. There's deeper stories there, but we're going to touch on it. And we're going to explain just enough to get by. But I feel like every one of the episodes could be a full-fledged TV show.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the thing. Describing it as an episode is the best way you can. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to have to... Now you're going to make me have to read book 2.
I think so. Yeah, one last comment. I did like the audiobook performance.
Oh, yeah.
I think that even the audiobook reader added a bunch to the book, too. I was reading some parts in the ebook after I had finished the audiobook again, and I was thinking... The lady did Kizzy very well because she read all of Kizzy's lines at like 1.5 speed, right? Pretty much.
Yeah.
Which fits Kizzy's personality perfectly now that I think about it. But when I was reading through the ebook, I was just reading at the normal pace all through Kizzy's lines too. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. No, Kizzy would be saying things faster than the way I'm reading it. So yeah, I think the audiobook performer did a great job of doing lots of subtle voices, but then giving everybody the characters they needed. So I don't know who directed her or whatever, but she did a great job.
Yeah. I especially noticed it when you had the transition between Kizzy and Dr. Chef.
Yeah.
Because Kizzy, she had that...
Yeah, mile a minute talking,
upbeat. And then you had Dr. Chef, who was more lumbering.
Yeah, even in Dr. Chef's story, isn't that a great... Just the depth in his stories, too? Like,
also, you got to think about, like, the level of acceptance you have to say, my race had a good run.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's like, whoa. How did they come to that decision? Wow.
Because I can tell you that That is not a decision that humans would come to.
Nope.
As long as there were 2 humans, they'd be like, nah, we got to keep this going.
We're making babies. So many ideas
Mm-hmm.
brought forward, touched upon, and then left there to ponder more, right?
Yeah.
I just liked that.
So, like I said, I really enjoyed this. I'm glad to have gotten the chance to read it, listen to it, whatever
the verb is.
whatever the verb is for that.
Well, good. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll have to have you read the second one.
Yeah,
Coming up in a while, but
we'll get to it eventually. We are getting our list longer and longer.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is one of my favorite books. Yeah.
Don't fall asleep on me yet.
Oh, not yet. No. I took a little nap today, so I'm good.
Oh, I did not.
Yeah, I just finished this Long Way to Small Angry Planet this morning.
This morning.
Yeah. But I mean, I've read it already, but yeah, reading 2 books in a row has not decimated, but like I am so far behind on all of my podcasts now. So far. Like I took a break from the book to listen to Upgrade.
Mm.
And I took a break to listen to ATP. But that's it. Everything else, like all the sermons, all of the news podcasts, I'm listening to Because News from 2 weeks ago now. So far behind.
I will be honest, I did a lot of going out and walking while listening to this, which was very good during this time where most of us are trapped indoors most of the day. You want a new TV? Is that what you're saying?
Not really, no. But, well, if I do, I want it to be OLED. I don't really want to hand me down.
Well, hey, if you really want a TV, I have a lovely 13-inch that is sitting in.
Yeah, I don't want that one.
Are you sure?
Mm-hmm, positive.
I think it might have a DVD player built onto the side of it.
Yeah, then I definitely don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was a good idea, bundling things together. It just sounds like, oh, well, when one breaks, it's going to be bad. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't sound like a good idea to me.
You know, that 13-inch, I was very grateful for it when I got it. It was a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't need it anymore because I have my 43-inch in the living room and then I think a 30-inch in the bedroom because clearly a single person needs 2 TVs. Because that's the type of person I am.
And I keep looking for when the LF extraction comes out. When is it being released? May 12th. Oh, 2 more days.
So what you're saying is we need to contact the author?
I think we could. I don't know if we'll do anything, but I think we could at least try. Should we do that? Should we interview him about the book?
Yeah. I mean, we could ask.
Well, I guess let's send an email and ask, right?